I'm going to do this very informally. It's a video I thought of the other day. Gary Vaynerchuk, you made me laugh. I love Gary. Gary, all the love in the world to you. But I do have to oppose to one of the statements that you made in one of your videos the other day. And you know, if you want to rebuttal it, I invite you open armly. And he was on stage and he said, look, if one more 20-some-year-old comes up to me and effing tells me that they want to be a millionaire before they're 30, I think I'm going to slap them, or something to that effect, right? And so he goes, it's the biggest BS. Rah, 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 rah. He went on and on and on about it. And he goes, I'm so fucking sick of hearing this. And he talks about his wine story and everything else. Okay, cool. And Gary, again, all the love in the world for you. But man, I just sat back, and that was me. I was that guy. I was like, man, I want to hit millionaire status before I hit the age of 30, right? And here's why. I started the game at the age of 20, right? That's 10 years. And at the time when I was younger, I was giving it truly all I had. And I think to Gary's point, he's sitting back going, look, you guys want to get there, but you don't want to put in the work that it takes. And his whole point being was, you have to be willing to put in the time, the effort. He worked with his mom and dad making like $40,000 a year forever. And then he did all of the stuff for his parents, and he made his parents' wine business grow, and he had all this distribution going out, and he still wasn't a millionaire. And it wasn't until later that he finally figured out how to do this on his own and really go out and make it for himself. And that was his point being. But my whole thing was, that wasn't me. I was doing it 100% on my own. I didn't have my mom and dad's wine business to do it with. They didn't have a grocery store. I didn't have anything to start off with. My mom and dad worked jobs like most normal middle class people, right? Or what we consider normal, right? Like now, normal is different to me. Like normal now to me is what I do. Like this is normal. Being an entrepreneur, being in business, going out and deal finding and putting and structuring things together. It's what I've done my entire life. That's normal to me now. But at the time, I remember being young. And I remember being that 20-year-old going, I'm going to hit millionaire status before I'm 30. Because 30 at the time seemed old. It was old, you know, and I was sitting back going, okay, when I get there, I just want to be financially independent. And I didn't really have a business model to get there. I just wanted to get there. And so I didn't really know how I was going to get there. So I just grinded, right? That was the word. You're just going to grind, right? You're going to grind and you're going to get there. And so I remember going in, and I was in direct sales, network marketing, and I was just building my distributorship. I got up to $5,000 a month, $6,000 a month, $8,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $18,000 a month, $20,000 a month. My biggest check was about $22,000 in 1 month. Well, it's only $200-some thousand a year. Okay, multiply that times 6 years with all of your expenses and stuff. If you don't spend anything, and then you're still not a millionaire because you have dumb assets, right? You have liabilities, not assets, which you guys have heard me talk about. And those are things that you own that depreciate in value instead of appreciate in value. I knew nothing about real estate, knew nothing about nothing as far as business, but I thought I did at a very young age because I was functioning on hope and hard work, that grind, right? Okay. Things fell apart in me, 1997, mid-20s. I come back to Albuquerque, and I sit back, and I accidentally open up a construction company. Okay? Kill it. My first year, we come in, make strong. Our net income was into the strong 6 figures first year. Okay? Now, I'm $100 and some odd $1,000 in debt. I have to pay this stuff off. I don't have a house, don't even have really a nice car. I have everything in the world that every normal person that is living an affluent lifestyle needs. I need to buy it still, right? So even though I make a ton of money the first year, it feels like I make almost nothing because I'm sitting back negotiating with my subsidized and unsubsidized student loans. I'm sitting back trying to negotiate with Bank of Boston, Norwest Bank. If you remember Norwest Bank at the time, I'm giving away my age here. It was bought out by Wells Fargo. I'm sitting back negotiating with Bank of Boston and all these old banks that don't even exist anymore. And because I owed them all money. I was in debt. I had a bunch of credit cards. Discover card, I owed them money. I owed everybody money. I leveraged myself to a T. My credit union, I owed them money. I owed everybody money. And I was sitting back going, okay, I got to pay all this stuff off. If I need to start buying assets because I need my credit, start buying and growing, right? Well, through the means of owner financing, I was able to start kind of purchasing some stuff, but it was a process. So I start making money. 2 years goes by. I start paying stuff off. I'm working my business. I'm still being creative, being the entrepreneur that I am. And I'm sitting back going, okay, how do I get myself in a position where I can become a millionaire? It's a big deal. And so one day I sit back and I say, okay, I have an affluent business. I'm making incredible income. How do I take this business and scale it or do something different? And so I go, you know what? I'm going to buy a piece of land and I'm going to build a house and I'm going to make profit on the side. And so for those of you guys, so you can understand how this has come about and this story has come about, I went in and I just bought a lot and I was going to build a house. I subdivided it in half and I landed up doubling my money. And before I even got to building the 2 houses, because I figured I bought 1 lot, I was able to divide it in half. I hired a survey company to divide that lot in half for me. I got an offer and doubled my money in less than 2 months on it. And so I made about $35,000 on the lot. And I grossed out just shy of $80,000, right? So I landed up getting all my money back plus doubling my capital. And I sat back and said, heck yeah, that was awesome. Now I'm going to go buy a lot and build a house. So I never got as far as building the house part. I bought a lot, subdivided it, sold the lot, made a profit. Then I said, okay, now I'm going to buy a lot and I'm going to go build a house. So that's what I did. I went out, I found a lot in an area. I drove around. I said, okay, I want to look for nice houses that are getting built. So I went in areas where other people's ideas, right, where other people were building. And I just drove around these subdivisions until I found a subdivision and said, that's kind of something I would feel good about building. And I found another builder, and I remember this guy who was bald. He was a biker dude, just a cool dude though. But then I talked to him, and he had this cool Australian accent, real heavy Australian. Hey, yo, what's up? Yeah, I build these houses. And he just had this cool accent, and he was wearing these cool skull rings. And I was going, damn, I like this guy. It just fit my mold. And I was like, what do you make on these houses? Well, it just depends how I build them. And he's telling me the story. And I was going, man, I really like this guy. I'm going to go try to buy a lot. I went and bought the lot right next door to him. So it was ungraded. He was building these 2 houses, and I went and bought the lot right next door to this guy. And I took pictures of it, took the architect out and said, I want to build a house similar to that. Because this guy's telling me he's making X amount of money on that house. And I want to make that amount on my house, and I want to learn how to do exactly what this cool biker dude is doing. Making money, being himself, wearing black boots, Levi's, T-shirts with these cool rings, bald head, and just rolling up on his Harley every day, right? And I just thought it was cool. So I was like, look, I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to roll up on a Harley Davidson to my houses to check on them, and I'm going to roll like this. And so I thought this was a cool thing to do. So I go out, and I buy a lot, and I reverse engineer it with my dad on an Excel spreadsheet, and I build a house. And it worked. Like 5 months later, I made $80,000 on my first build. And I sat back and said, this is cool. Okay, I got my business rolling. 5 months, I made $80,000. I'm going to do this again. Now, the way I did that is I did take a home equity line of credit out of my house. I took about $150,000. I had about $100,000 in the bank, and I built the house cash. Okay, I built the house cash. I was debt free, built one house, and I was debt free only on my business, but I had debt on my house, on my single family home. But it was worthless sitting in my single family home. I couldn't make money with the equity in my home. I was paying a mortgage on it, just like everybody else does. I took that money out and I put that capital to work. I took all that equity out of my house that I had. I put it to work, plus the money I had sitting in my bank account, and I built my first house. Made a profit of $80,000. I took the $250,000 that I originally had, plus the $80,000, plus I had been saving money. I was living super humbly. Wasn't buying expensive vehicles or anything because I already went through that game. And I said, let's build 2 homes. Okay. And so the next 6 months I spent building 2 homes, and I did 2 of them at the exact same time. And I didn't go far. All I did is I went across the street and just up a block and bought 2 more lots right next door to each other. Utilities were already there. I didn't know anything about development. It was on a dirt road, but in a nice area that people were building nice, beautiful custom homes. And I said, look, I'm going to get better at this. And I made $80,000 on my first one. What if I can make $100 on each of my next 2? Well, I failed by $10,000 each. I made about $92,000 on my next 2 homes, and it took me just another 6 months to build out 2 of them. I did them right next door to each other at the exact same time. So the flooring guys went in at the same time, the framers went in at the same time, the roofers went in at the same time. So I was doubling down on my capital at the exact same time. And yes, there was a few more weeks that it took to build out both of them, but I was essentially doubling down in a shorter amount of time. So I landed up making about $90,000 on these next 2 homes. So if you add up the math, I took $150,000, okay? $150K on a HELOC. Okay, I had $100,000. Now look, ladies and gentlemen, I had $100,000 because I had a business that was finally making some money for me. And by this time, I had finally paid off my debt. And I'll tell you, I got aggressive on paying off my debt. I did it all in 1 year. In fact, the lady down at the Student Loan Center at the U.S. Department of Treasury, where I was paying off my student loans, I swear she thought I was selling drugs. I would go down there with like these cashier's checks for $15,000 and be like, there you go. I'll be back next week. And then the next week I'd go back. $10,000. Like, there you go. I'll be back next week. And I kept going back down. And I remember her name was Agnes because she ended up doing a job for me. One of the only customers that never paid me in all the years I've been in business. I can get her and ring her, right? Because she felt like I was making too much money. I went and did a concrete job for her at her house because she got curious what I was doing for a living. And I was pouring concrete all over the place. Went and did a concrete job at her house. And after I did the job for her, she decided that she felt I was making too much money and that I was poaching her for too much money. Although market circumstances were okay with it, I still do it today. I've been doing it for 20 some years, and people all over the country have been happy with everything we do. But yet that one lady, because she saw me pay off my student loans, felt that it was otherwise too expensive to pay. And so at the time, I was making money. I said, you know what, I'm not going to take her to court. To each their own, and I moved forward. But through the means of pouring concrete, ladies and gentlemen, I saved up $100,000. Took that, $250,000. Now remember, I don't have to fork out all the commissions, all this stuff. I sold the house for about $360,000. I made $80K profit, okay? So that I had $250. First house, I made $80K profit. First house. Okay, I built two more. Made $90,000 per house. So you add $180,000 for two houses. Okay? So this is profit. Second and third home. Profit. Okay? Now let's add this up. Okay, we had 250, 180. So we have 260. So we have $510,000. Is that right? 510? $510,000 in my bank account. Okay? I had $500,000 in my bank account because I haven't touched it. I had a business I was running, right? Those of you guys who want to quit your full-time jobs, I sit back and say, don't quit your full-time jobs. I did this on the side. I was running my full-time business, getting up in the morning, getting my crews going, 7 o'clock, all trucks out, people going out, pouring concrete all over the city, and I was working, right? And then once I got all that going, by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock in the morning, I go run across town and check on my houses that were being built. And I'd stop by there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it was, and I wouldn't even do it every day. Once I got to like drywall and I knew they were there for 2 weeks, I'd show up twice a week and just make sure they were doing their jobs, they were doing their job right, and it was being done professionally. And it would take me an hour, 2 hours, maybe a day, if that, and I would show up and I was making this type of profit. This took me 5 months. These two homes took me 6 months. So in 1 year, less than 1 year, I had this. Now, yes, I still owed this back. P.S., by the way, never paid that back off until 2017. In 2017, this was in 2000. I did not ever pay this off until 2017. Why? Because it was stupid to pay off. One, I had a low interest rate. It cost me almost nothing to pay. I think I was paying like $900 a month on this, but it was making me this type of return. Why would I not pay $900 a month when I can make that type of return on somebody else's money, other people's money, ladies and gentlemen? I paid it off in 2017 when I finally sold my house. There was no need for me to pay it off. It was dumb. The interest was a tax write-off, and I was able to go off and generate capital with other people's money. So I put that working capital to work. But my net worth was this minus this, right? Because I still owed that debt. And when I paid this off in 2017, you know how much I still owed on that? Something like $135,000. I paid that thing for 17 years, and I still owed like $135,000 on the damn note, right? So that's why. But it was smart debt. I used their money. But just to give you an idea, people who take out home equity lines of credit to buy, to go out and purchase properties and purchase assets or purchase liabilities. Okay, let's reverse this. Purchase liabilities that don't make you money. Anything you purchase and finance that doesn't make you money is a liability, not an asset. So those of you guys that are buying a car thinking you're buying an asset, you're not. You're buying a liability. And so if you take out this money, spend it on cars, vacations, jewelry, and dumb shit, let me tell you something. That's not an asset, that's a liability. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you guys is that when you go out and you put this money to work and it generates you this type of capital, that, ladies and gentlemen, is an asset. Okay? Now here's how I became a millionaire. I sat back and when I got to this point, I sat back and said, okay, if I did this, how do I guarantee myself that I'm at millionaire status? Now, at this point in time, I was like 28 years old going to 29, and I was sitting back going, okay, how do I get there before I'm 30? Okay? So I got aggressive, and I said, you know what? I'm going to build 4 of them. Okay? And then plus I had the money for my business. And I'm going to do this twice in 1 year. So I'm going to go out, I'm going to build 4. And this is my business plan, right? I say, okay, I'm going to make about 90 to 100. 90 to 100, 90 to 100, 90 to 100. Now, understand that I had other stuff going on, like buildings that were going up, and I had businesses that were running, but I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it and believe it. And so I sat back and I said, okay, 100, 100, 100, 100, and I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to build 6. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this in 9 months. So I put a 9-month goal together. Remember, I was 28 going on 29. I had about a year and a half to do this. This was a 9-month goal. And then I said, you know what? Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to do this one more time. And so I remember it being March. And I sat back and said, by the end of the year, I'm going to have 4 homes sold. Okay. So I start this in March. And then the following year, I had one more year after that to go out and get to the age of 30 and hit millionaire status. I said, okay, so I do 4 homes, age of 28. And this became like a real goal, like a real tangible goal. And so I sat back and said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get there. And I'm going to say, you know what? Then I'm going to take these 4 and I'm going to do 6 of them. I don't know if I can afford to do 8 of them, but I can afford to do 6 of them cash. And you got to understand, I was doing this debt free, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't buying institutional money. The only institutional money I had used at that time was this right here, that $150,000. Outside of that, I was a debt free company. I came in, I said, okay, I'm going to do 6. Now, I got good at the game. I'm making $100K to $110,000 per house. Okay? I figured this game out by this time. And most of these I made $100K on too. And so I was up now I was like, man, if I make under $100,000 per house, I screwed things up. I needed to make $100K per house minimum profitability. Okay? So I went in, I made $100K, 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 $100K. Haven't touched a penny of it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not out buying Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and big, giant, fancy houses. Still living in the same 2,600 square foot house that I had bought. Lived there all the way to to the end of 2017 when I paid this off. Lived there for 18 years. And ladies and gentlemen, I went out. I had this amount of money. I made another 400K here. I made another 600K here. This plus this is 1 million plus 510 is 1.5 million minus that. That's $1,350,000. I had taxes. That's why I'm not taking into account all the money I was making with my business. Because guess what my business was doing? It was making me a ton of money, but guess what it was doing? It was paying taxes too. And so for those of you guys that are sitting back saying, well, you got to pay taxes on that. I know. I have $1.35 million. And I may have a business that's doing about $2 million a year in business. We're making about $750,000 a year. Guess where all that money was going? That $750,000 is going to paying taxes. So ladies and gentlemen, my tax bills were paid. My houses were built. My profitability was in. And my bank account was beautiful. It was the first time ever in my entire life I had over $1 million in my bank account. I looked at my bank account and I had like 1.1 something million dollars in there because I had purchased more land to keep doing this. I just didn't stop at 600. I took this and said, okay, we got to buy more land, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go out. Let's multiply this. Let's go build more houses. And so the other few $100,000 that I had out of there was to go buy more lots. I was spending about $30,000 a lot. So I had $1.1 million. I remember looking in the bank account and saying, man, April 15th had passed. Taxes were paid. I actually done an extension, paid some penalties, went back out, and I paid all my taxes. And I said, I paid all of last year's taxes off. I have a little bit of money left over. My wife had a great lifestyle. We're out traveling, doing what we want to do, building a business, running our business. Taxes are paid, $1.1 million in the bank, and a ton of land. And I see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm 29 years old. Oh, I did it, right? I knew I had done it. I was sitting back going, yeah, baby, I killed it. So, Gary V, I was that kid. But I had a business plan. So contrary to your statement, your beliefs, I was that kid that went up to you and said, I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30. But I did it. And I had a business plan. And this is exactly my business plan. And this is exactly how I did it, Gary V. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I was successful in paying my taxes, becoming a millionaire, 29 years old. I did it 9 months before my deadline. And I did it. So in spite of what you say, Gary V, it's doable. I'm one of those guys that came in and said, I want to be a millionaire before I'm 30 years old. So what do you say to that? I love you, Gary V, all the love in the world. But let me tell you something. It's doable for those of you guys who have that goal. Go do it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, give us a thumbs up. I know you love this content. I know you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So click that button below so you can hear about more content just like this. I got many, many, many more stories just like this. Great information, great content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click below. Give me some love. Give me a thumbs up. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time.